All right, this recording is going to be rough. I'm going to try to sum up to you what's been on my Facebook going back a little bit more over a year now, and especially the last couple of posts. This is going to be rough because anyone watching this is going to think this is a pretty scatterbrained, non nonsensical thing, but I'm just going to go for it for later reference. People can look at it. Why would they look at it later? I'm not quite sure. Well, I have typed up the things I want to talk about. So, as I was starting off with saying that I'm going to try to summarize in a final statement to lead up to May 13th, which is just in a day from now. Anyone following what's been on my Facebook, it comes up on your news feed, so you might see things. It's been going on for several years now, but importantly, the last year or more was important. But anyone seeing that stuff, would have either not read it or just thought to themselves, "Oh, Aaron's going crazy again." Well, maybe, possibly. Um, an important date, May 13th, is coming up in a day now. Why is it important? Because I'm saying it's important. Maybe it's important to you. Why would it be? It's not important to anybody else, right? I called a specific day last year, Finnegan's Wake. There's a 2 week period of time leading up to that. And what that meant was that your destiny in the afterlife is going to be based off of your intentions uh, from leading up until that point. I gave the United States a chance during a 2 week period that they could pay the price for what they've done for the last decades. Basically profiteering off the presidency of the United States is what they've done. Our leadership role or standing in the world, profiteering through the military, through pharmaceuticals, through just revolving doors, industrial complexes of, I mean, just healthcare is just run amok. Um, the how your food's made, what's put in your food, sugar. I mean, just the whole gambit. They've There was a price they could have paid for that during a 2 week period last year, ending in a certain day. It's all written on my Facebook if you're curious and you want to spend hours trying to figure out what I'm saying. You could try, but it would be kind of hard to understand. So this week is the final week. There's really not much more that's gonna come out of me after May 13th. Um, let's see. Last year, yeah, 2 weeks. I talked about that. I made a YouTube uh, channel with more than 50 videos during those 2 weeks. The name of that channel is Talking All Time in China. So it talks about, I don't know how many videos I made, like 70 videos in a couple week period, mostly around that. And then there's some stuff on that channel just about my life in China with my wife. But a lot of it's to do with religious stuff. So why is it why is it religious? Why would no one have paid attention? Because I'll just confess right now, yes, I'm someone that has like a not a God complex, but like a Jesus Christ like complex, but it has nothing to do with what you might have known about the New Testament. I do believe personally that I'm a reincarnated person from the past, most probably Jesus Christ, although he would have had a Jewish mother at the time. I believe his father was from Irish descent. But Why would I not like I don't care if if I have a following of people. I don't care if people are convinced. I'm not gonna lead any church services or do anything that you would think a Jesus Christ type figure would do, because one, over 2,000 other men were crucified in that city. Um, Not just Jesus Christ. The Jews didn't sell out Jesus Christ. Uh, the story, if you look into the story, the specifics of the stories or of the New Testament, that whole story is pretty much the rudest, like, slap in the face to the Jewish nation that could possibly be imaginable. I've talked about why that is in previous videos, but it's the absolute rudest, fucked up thing that they could have done to a man of Jewish ethnicity, which Jesus Christ was. Um, so they did that. They surround the city with the Roman Empire. They crucify over 2,000 men. I mean, who do you think's in charge? They reset. They had the power to do that. They reset the timeline for what year it is, what calendars are going to say for all of humanity. I mean, who do you think wrote the books? You think anybody else had the ability to have all the parchments, papers, and to write Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John? Who do you think? If you got the power to crucify all the men in the city, I mean, all the ones that won't do what you want, reset the timeline for all of mankind. You think they didn't? You think it wasn't all done in order to write a New Testament? I mean, if you think Jesus Christ agrees with anything that happened or is even aware that a New Testament was written, if you think he died for your sins, well, he did it. And here we are 2,000 years later. You've been calling your years the day after, day years after following doing that before Christ, BC, after his death, AD. You've been you've been praying for your sins for 2,000 years if you're Christian. I mean, I'm talking about billions of people that have lived and died over the last 2,000 years, spreading the gospel as many places as in the world could. That someone would have died for your sins that you'd ever do. Just sin again, pray for forgiveness again. Then the act of communion. I mean, it's human sacrifice. Like, it's a satanic belief. The the idea of Jesus Christ dying for your sins, a human sacrifice. That's the satanic belief. The practice of communion, eating his body and drinking his blood. The unleavened bread is his body, let it nourish and strengthen you, and the wine or grape juice is his blood, and whatever prayer it is for that. I don't know. I went every weekend till I was up to like 19 years old, and I went to church school for 9 years of my K through 12 education. I think I went first grade through eighth grade, then I went back my sophomore year to a Christian school. Um, so there's that. Okay, I believe I'm reincarnated Jesus Christ. Two, no, the New Testament of the Bible is absolute bullshit. The world's been doing it for 2,000 years. I don't find out this until some, well, four major things happen. I had two visions in the year 2000. I think they were both in 2009. One might have been in 2009 and one was in 2010. Or no, one was, they were either, yeah, One was definitely in 2010, and then the first one was either in 2009 or 2010. So those are written up on my Facebook in the public profile, The Reincarnation of the Right Hand of God. So one, I don't consider myself the Son of God. I consider myself to be his best man. And this has been in the past before Jesus Christ, dating back to King David as well, right? Because that's what had happened to Jesus Christ, leading to the crucifixion of over 2,000 men in the city in a New Testament written. They couldn't accept that he was the return of King David, a warrior king, right? They couldn't accept that because of what happened to him and the Jewish nation from that point on. Um, okay, so explaining all that stuff, again, all this stuff is more explained in detail on YouTube videos that I made like a year ago. I have a 20 episode in length playlist called I Saw God, and that's one of the visions that I had, and there's 20 episodes talking through what that meant. Made those videos over a year ago. I gave a date that no one paid attention to of last year. I called the date Finnegan's Wake. And what that meant was is that the only thing that's going to determine your soul in the afterlife is your intention from that point on. And now this year, following May 6th to May 13th, I want the wars to stop. I've written up how you could stop the wars on my Facebook, how you could change. You only have to do one simple thing to change the military industrial complex that is the United States into a construction force. And simply you just restructure all of it to fall under the Army Corps of Engineers. So you take all the chiefs of staff of the whole department of DOD, and you take the Army Corps of Engineers out of the Army, and you put them on top of everything. That would fix it. But if something's not done to stop this war, they're talking about, this Ukrainian front attack. They've been gearing up for the ground to be dry to go in. That's probably going to happen. I mean, no one's paying attention to what I'm saying. Oh well. So my job's basically done. The reason why I'm making this video, my job's basically done as far as communicating with the world. Come the end of May 13th, because no one's listening. No one's listening. Most people don't even believe in reincarnation anyways. Majority of the world, like 98% of the world, does not believe in reincarnation. Everyone around the Dalai Lama and that those practices from Tibet, now in India, they believe in reincarnation. And then some other places in Asia, I'm not sure all the specifics, but you'd have to believe in reincarnation was a thing, and you don't know who your parents would be. You just know that you would be reincarnated sometime in the future. You'd have to believe that to believe anything that I'm saying, correct? You would, and you don't, but that's fine. Okay, now the dilemma that I'm in the future is that I don't have to communicate anything else. I somehow have to get people to take hours of their life to read everything that's on my Facebook and all the YouTube videos that I've made, and not only, and like a majority of people on the planet, like that, I'm kind of responsible. Like that's what I should be spending the rest of my life doing. And not only one is that impossible, can I not do it? Two is that the information on my Facebook and in those videos is so uh, what's the word? Um, distressing, um, distressing, something like that. It is not. It's not all there. there's definitely some things that don't make any sense. There's things that are just like far out there, um, crazy talk. There's a lot of certain individuals that I call out like specifically that I'm talking about, different actresses and actors and singers and songwriters if you go back over the years. And what I say about them is just thoughts that were in my head at the time, and no check of what I was saying. I was just typing on my computer nonstop. Doesn't make any sense. But what we have in conclusion, what we have here between the Facebook and the YouTube videos and everything that I've tried to communicate on my Facebook is you have an example of what Jesus Christ, if you could think and accept he was incarnated into your society, brought up as a Christian, practicing communion, believing that he himself died for his own sins and all the people around him, practicing human sacrifice, practicing, an in practice thing of cannibalism. Well, and not having anyone around him that believes in reincarnation. That's just something, like in a comic book or an anime or something like a far out. I didn't know anyone in the entire world thought that was a thing till I was, well into my adulthood. I had no idea, I might have been someone other than who I was trying to figure out who I was. Until my 30s, I had those two visions, and then 5 years later, I traveled to Israel, learning it along the way. So what you have through the whole Facebook and on YouTube is just an example of what this life did to me, and if you think Jesus Christ was perfect, or I mean, obviously I'm not perfect, right? Obviously. Um, and obviously I'm not Jesus Christ, I'm Aaron David Finnegan, right? But I believe that I was reincarnated as him. However, the closest interpretation, the closest things that you have in the New Testament of who he was you had the practice of washing the feet that he did, which I actually was able to do with our church service. That was part of our communion we did once a year, which I thought was the good part of the communion. We partnered up and washed each other's feet. You have that occurrence in the New Testament, and then you have the time that he went into the synagogue. I think it was a synagogue, and it was filled with people trading stuff on the Sabbath, and he took a whip and drove everybody out of there. So those two characteristics of him, those two acts of him in the New Testament, probably talk more about his character than anything else. Who knows who wrote those parables or who said that? If it was a direct quote from him, I'm not sure, but I definitely don't speak in parables. And that's what it is. May 13th, the kill is still going to go on. The war machine's still going to be going on. Driven and overall advised from the Vatican. You guys just aren't going to stop them. You have no clue whatsoever that it's their hand, that it's their voice in the ear of just a few people in the United States. And it's just going to keep going. Keep killing everybody. I mean, there can't be a majority of people on the world. There's 8 billion of you guys. Supposedly something like in totality, like 3 or 4 billion people are supposed to be religious, and you should all believe that, God created man in his image and you're all equal, but you just can't stop killing hundreds of thousands of millions of each other. So obviously, none of you believe, but you will listen to a guy called the Pope that wears a white robe all day, and his throne room, his throne room is in an auditorium where the auditorium looks like a snake. And then if you go in further, like the fangs coming down to hold up the ceiling, they lead into a room where his throne room, so his throne room is in the mouth of a snake. And then he's got this big Lucifer above him on the throne. They made that thing in like the 1970s, and it's the outside of the building is shaped like the shape of a snake's head from the side. So, I guess you guys are just going to stay down on that path. That somewhere in the world has been on that path since they wrote the book of Genesis and the story about the snake tricking Adam and Eve. Like that's what their cult has done, and how they've been able to amass all the wealth that they've amassed is they consider themselves having the ability to lie to men and women in order to inherit the earth. They want to own it all somehow. And, you know, anyways, enough on that. You guys are so far into it, you're never going to figure it out.